millions of Chicagoans and guests from around the globe. Since its inception, the pier has served as a military training ground, the first home of the University of Illinois at Chicago, and a stage for the world's greatest musicians and Chicago fans. The modern pier was realized in 1993, and today we are in the midst of reimagining Navy Pier for its second century. After 100 years, Chicago's front porch continues to open doors to endless excitement. Be sure to visit the new Holt Brothers Park, delectable food experiences, the Aeon Summer Fireworks, scenic boat rides, Chicago Children's Museum, Chicago Shakespeare Theater, the Miller Lite Beer.
Be 4 feet lower than Lake Michigan itself, and we'll get into the rationale behind that in just a few moments. But the device itself, the Chicago Harbor Lock, only works one way at a time. So once everybody else clears out, they were 4 feet lower a few minutes ago, we'll enter in, and then we will be lowered down to where they just were. They've been brought back up to lake level itself. Now, being on a day like today, in the height of all of Bertrand Goldberg was going about trying to do. He presented these two towers in Chicago, and he said that these resemble stacked rose petals. And to achieve that, he started with two central stems, like flower stems, and then the further up he went, each and every unit is suspended off of that stem like the petal of a flower. Whether or not they look like that to you, most Chicagoans call these the corn cob towers because they resemble kernels of corn and cobs of corn, if you will. But each and every unit inside that building is suspended off of it like a flower petal. And originally, if you lived in Marina City, you had a lot of things that were attractive to you that brought you here. For example, the House of Blues used to be an exclusive movie theater for the people that lived here. You had your own marina space, a grocery store, restaurant space. The Hotel Chicago is an exclusive use office building. And Goldberg was trying to do that to keep you in the city. There used to be 3.5 million people that lived here. Now there's only 2.7 million people that live here, partially in part because they were moving out to the suburbs. They wanted things like on-site parking. They wanted things like access to grocery stores and restaurants and things like that. Goldberg was trying to keep people in the city. He had this idea that cities were healthy and strong if you had people living within them, doing business in them, spending money, doing things like that, as opposed to make room for over 16 smaller warehouses and offices to be consolidated into one central structure for the Marshall Field Company. That's who built it, that's who operated it for several years. The Kennedy family owned and operated it for several years. These days, it's still very much a commercial hotspot for the city. All sorts of startup firms start over here. Other types of companies have offices here. Different types of conventions come through as well. But it's the second largest building in the world after only the Pentagon. It was big enough for over 60 years to have its own zip code. Riverside Plaza was never been built because with the construction of this building, partially over railroad tracks, partially over the river, it's completely leaving its neighbor's river center completely in the dark. Not only that, but taking away their views of the river itself. People in this building had unheard of views of the city and the river itself for decades. But because of the design, because of its placement, because of air rights construction, now all these balconies are just basically some of the most awkward places to hang out in the city itself. Just imagine being out there grilling at night. You just kind of look over like, I saw that guy 30 seconds ago. I was still looking. As a plane. Very strange. But across the river, it's very, I should say, risen up 10 to 20 feet in the air over the course of several years in order to accommodate things like these railroad tracks. It's a concept we call air rights construction, in which the railroads can take their land and lease out the air above it to everybody else so that you can have more than just railroad tracks in the heart of the downtown area. Keep in mind that our bridges are constantly undergoing maintenance and redesign and other types of upgrades. And some of these signals you'll see over here, the workers probably are taking a break for lunch, if you will. But maybe the one building that you came to see today is right here to your left. We're going to make a turn. You can strain your necks upward. You can try and take in all 1,451 feet, all 110 stories of it. And if you're afraid of heights, let me just make it a little bit worse for you. This building actually sways back and forth in the breeze, 18 inches in either direction. It's designed to do that because on a day like today, when the breeze is very slight down here, there might be 50-mile-an-hour winds up at about 1,400 feet in the air. So the building is designed to sway like a tree. Now, how does it do that? When we make the turn, when we look at the side of the building, I'll point out exactly how it can do that. Start coming into view now. It's tempting to think of this as just one massive building. It's actually 9 different modules or structures all pushed together. So look at the sides of it. You'll see these massive scenes. Picture a Rubik's Cube. You can see like how there's those different sections. They're all pushed together, if you will. They taper off the taller they get. Because of this, you gain sturdiness and stability. If you wanted to spread all of that space in that building out down here at street level, it would take up 16 entire city blocks, as opposed to taking 2 city blocks and going up into the sky accordingly. Now that was the tallest building in the world for over 25 years. In 1998, it lost out to a building in Malaysia. And these days, it's only half as tall as the current tallest building in the world itself. And why does it have an identity crisis? Because nothing is sacred here in Chicago. Sears moved out. They didn't have enough money, they didn't need the space, they moved out. The Willis Insurance Company moved in. They took up 3 floors out of 110. 3 out of 110. That made them the largest client. And she was awful. And apparently she went to New York, she got booed out of town, came home with her head in her hands, bawling her eyes out to Sam. And she said, "Sam, I just want to be a singer." And apparently he promised her her own opera house. Now the shape of the building itself is shaped like a large throne, so people call it Insull's throne. And the legend has it that the back of the chair has its back facing New York, just like New York turned its back on his opera aspiring girlfriend. And you're saying, "Oh, that's so cute," but Samuel Insull was married too. The faces were made. And that's the legend. Nobody can confirm whether that really happened or not. Some historians swear by it. Other historians do not. The one thing that can be confirmed is that Samuel Insull did love opera. He did build that building to further opera in Chicago, and he actually lost his entire fortune in there because it opened right when the Great Depression hit. Now what you're hearing right now are Metro trains and Amtrak trains that are queuing up because Union Station area, again, you can see here a construction elevator going up and down. Even though it looks to be pretty close to being finished, it's still probably got another year left or so before they completely open it up. Now coming into view right now, off to your left. Take a look at this building towering above us that kind of tapers in and gets thinner the taller it gets. This is the Civic Opera Building, designed by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. There's 2 stories for the shape of this building. The first story involves sort of a love triangle, if you will. There was a very wealthy man that lived in Chicago. His name was Samuel Insull. Also gives you that really unique eye-catching aspect of 3D effect. Postmodern style, which is the design of the building or the aesthetic of the building, oftentimes has buildings referencing the environment surrounding it or its fellow buildings in its vicinity. Gang is referencing the building's location next to the lake, next to the river as well. But as I mentioned earlier, the Aon Center for 40 years sat as part of a skyline that was largely unchanged to the naked eye. Buildings went up, buildings went down, but the major tall buildings, the major recognizable buildings, did not change until 2009. When that landed in our city. Guys, we've escaped the rain so far. I don't know if going through this would actually, I think that would be betraying that type of sheer luck on our part. This is supposed to be a 90-foot water cannon, or a water cannon with a 90-foot arc, that is supposed to shoot from the north side of the city over to the south side of the city and allow you to pass on a boat unscathed. And as you can see, works brilliant. Because when they designed it, they failed to realize that yes, we live in the real world, and here in the real world there's gravity and there's wind resistance. And that's what happens to it. It gives me a little bit of time to tell you about why it's coming out from this point to begin with. The Nicholas J. Villa Centennial Fountain was opened up in 1989 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the of the project or the group of people that were brought into being to reverse the Chicago River. In 1889, an organization was created called the Chicago Sanitary District, and their whole rationale for being was to find a way to reverse the Chicago River. So this is basically a giant commemoration to a sewage project.